Good morning. Okay, I know it's a little dreary out there, but our Guardians are in first place. A little bit more energy this morning. Good morning. There we go. My name is Spencer Rule. I'm board president here at the Lorain Historical Society. I want to thank all of you for joining us here this morning for a critical community conversation. We know that you have many opportunities for community engagement, especially today, and we appreciate your joining us this morning. For your colleagues who are unable to attend, the program is being videotaped and will be available on the Lorain Historical Society's YouTube channel. Our theme for this year's community conversations is change and change makers. Today, our panel includes leaders from our nonprofit community who have successfully navigated the changes we all experienced during COVID and who are now tasked with facing the unique challenges to nonprofits today. They are leading their organizations, staying true to their respective missions, and maintaining the highest level of service to members of the Lorain County community and beyond. I'd like, before I go any further, just want to thank each and every one of you for your dedication to the community and certainly for being here this morning. Here are a few statistics about nonprofit organizations in Lorain County. There are over 1,300 tax-exempt organizations, of which approximately 760 are 501c3 public charities and private foundations. Excluding hospitals and universities, there are approximately 3,800 direct jobs, leading to 173 million of direct economic output and scales to 260 million of total economic output when the ripple effects of the work are included. Lastly, between 45 and 60,000 county residents, representing 15 to 20% of our population, are served by a nonprofit annually. And when you take into account repeat services like monthly food pantry distributions, there are over 100,000 service encounters annually. As you can see, nonprofits are a big part of our county, and without them, there would be a large void in our community. At this time, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Barb Piscopo, Executive Director here at the Lorain Historical Society, who will introduce our panelists and serve as today's panel moderator. Barb?
Thank you, Spencer. I first want to start out by thanking each and every one of you for being here today, especially those of you who work in the nonprofit space. Whether you're on the panel or in our audience, I want to acknowledge the time that you all dedicate to the work that you do in our community. It's the work of stitching together services and people to form a community here in Lorain County. And as you heard in the statistics that Spencer shared, we do a lot of stitching, don't we? I also want to thank especially our philanthropic foundations who are represented here today. We have representatives here from the Community Foundation of Lorain County, the Stalker Foundation, and the Nord Family Foundation. We all know all too well that without your help and your dollars, we could not do the work that we do. So thank you to each of you who represent those organizations. To those of you who sit on boards and who donate to nonprofits in our community, whether it be large or small, it's a huge, huge work that you do. And I especially want to thank our board members from the Lorain Historical Society who are here today. The work that you do to provide strategic leadership for these organizations is unmatched, and you devote a lot of time and energy and passion in the work that you do. Whether you know it or not, the nonprofit world is facing many challenges today, in many ways similar to the ones we faced during the pandemic. Yet, in other ways, they're deeper and perhaps less obvious to the casual observer. I know that all of us have participated in various assemblies over Zoom, in person, all kinds of convenings, trying to learn and to share ideas about how we cope during these trying times. The two words that I keep hearing over and over again, whether it's a national convening, a state convening or a local convening like the one we just had yesterday, courtesy of the Nord Family Foundation, are two words: collaborate and be creative. These panelists here are doing just that, and I'm very proud and grateful that they each agreed to be part of our conversation today. They represent all of the people who work in the nonprofit space and in the nonprofit sector in Lorain County. We're going to hear from each of them, but then there will be opportunity after that for you to answer questions so that we can hear from you and hear your concerns. So I'd like to introduce our panelists, and I'll let them tell a little bit about the work that they do in just a moment. To my far left, we have Nick Turner from the North Family Foundation, Lisa Hutson from ONE Lorain County, Julie Chase-Morefield from Second Harvest Food Bank, and Elizabeth Radachi from North Pointe Ballet. The conversation today, I'm sure, will be lively. If you had been a fly in the room when we had our preliminary discussion, you would attest to that, because everyone here is very passionate about what they're doing. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to pass the mic to the panelists and ask each one of them to just briefly talk about the work that they do in the organization that they represent. Okay, Elizabeth, let's start with you.
Thank you, Barb. My name is Elizabeth Radachi. I am the development director for North Pointe Ballet, and I coordinate our Chance to Dance program, which provides performance opportunities for youth dancers with diverse abilities. Our mission at North Pointe Ballet is to make ballet accessible, and we do that by providing narration at our performances, providing a sensory-friendly performance. We have our Chance to Dance program. We have our field trip performance, for which Lorain fifth graders are coming for free in December, and as a way to get youth in the community exposed to having arts opportunities. We have programs in El Centro to offer dance classes, and those students have an opportunity to come join our youth cast as well. So we're really trying to just make art an option for people if they want to try it, and it's available in their community at an affordable price, and that's our big deal.
My name is, that was loud. My name is Julie Chase-Morefield. I serve as the president and CEO at the Second Harvest Food Bank of North Central Ohio. I've been with Second Harvest for 21 years now, so I've seen a lot of growth within the organization. At our most basic level, we are distributing food from our Nordson Food Distribution Center. We distribute around 11 million pounds of food each year to food pantries, hot meal programs, shelters, children's programs, senior programs throughout 4 counties in North Central Ohio. So that's the basis of what we do, but we also do so much more. We are doing SNAP outreach, so helping families get connected to SNAP within all of our region. We do innovative programming, like we're announcing a veterans program soon that'll help reach out to veterans. We deliver senior food boxes. We're working on food as medicine. We have a food pantry now at Cleveland Clinic Avon Hospital. So we're trying to reach people where they are with their food needs. What we want is to have a hunger-free community, and we want to be able to help every neighbor who needs food assistance be able to thrive and eventually have long-term food security.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hutson. I'm the president CEO of ONE Lorain County. We're a relatively new organization. We're coming up on our 2nd year, the end of October. And we are a nonprofit economic development organization serving all of Lorain County. Our mission is we help businesses locate, stay, and grow in a prosperous Lorain County. And we really focus on 4 main areas. So business retention and expansion, so helping get resources to support our existing businesses, business attraction, so bringing new businesses into the community, workforce development, so making sure that our employers can connect with the right workers and that our workforce is getting the right skills that they need, and site development. So the great thing about Lorain County, we have a lot of land. The bad thing is most of those sites are not what we call shovel ready. So helping those property owners get those sites ready and more attractive to potential employers coming in. So, thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Turner, and I'm the Director of Strategy and Engagement at the Nord Family Foundation. We're a private philanthropic organization that funds in special areas of interest to the family, which include Denver, Boston, upstate New York, Columbia, South Carolina, Cleveland, and then Lorain County, Ohio. Essentially, by charter, at least 50 plus 1% of our funds stay in Lorain County, where the family is originally from, and they remain committed to this part of the country. We fund in four main areas: arts and culture, health and social services, civic affairs, and education. And my job at the foundation is to make sure that our grant making is connected. And so a grant we make in the arts is directly connected to that in health and social services or civic affairs.
Thank you. So we tried to get people to represent different sectors of our community. And so the answers that they'll give, I'm sure, is their own experience, but then also reflective of the work that they do in the community. So the first question: how does the philanthropic community, so by that I mean the foundations, influence nonprofits and the work that is done throughout Lorain County? Anybody can start. Or not.
You can start, Julie.
All right, I get to start. I think in my experience in the years that I've been here in Lorain County, the biggest influence I've seen with our philanthropic partners is their ability to collaborate together on issues that are critical. So whether it's mental health, whether it's substance use disorders, whether it's the issue of hunger during COVID, that there is a real sense that they are working in tandem, not necessarily lockstep. I don't want to say it that way, but to work in tandem to understand how best to meet the needs and to really listen to all the partners who are part of a specific issue. That's unique to this area. And I think that most people who are in Lorain County know that. But in other communities, in other states, the foundations, the philanthropic partners don't necessarily work together, don't necessarily talk to each other as far as, trying to meet needs in the same way.
To tag on to what you said, the way that they make space, like Nick said, he's making sure over at Nord Family, they're making sure that, I'm sorry, making sure that there's a space for the intense needs that come with health and social services and economics for jobs and growth in that way, but also arts and culture, because people need the opportunity to do things outside of work, outside of figuring out how to solve their financial needs and put food on their table. And that can inspire them to, connect with their community and just find a way to step back from the things in life that are difficult. So I know we really appreciate that space is made for us as an arts and culture organization. We get stuck in saying to ourselves all the time, well, we're not providing a bed for kids who don't have one. We don't provide food for people. We don't this or that. But then we have people like Barb and Nick who remind us that arts and culture are just important as these other things, and everybody needs to be well-rounded. So we definitely appreciate that from our philanthropic.
While you're handing the mic down, I just want to tell you just briefly a comment that I heard at a webinar that I went to this week put on by our local museum association. And they said, workers deserve bread, but they also need roses as well. So that's really what you said.
That's an awesome comment. And yes, I focus on companies and workers, but the ultimate goal of that is to have everyone in our community live in a vibrant community and have the resources in life that they want. And really, my goal is to make sure that we don't have a need for the Second Harvest Food Bank because everyone has a livable wage and has the resources that they need. And I think our philanthropic community understands that yes, they have to respond to those crisis issues and support those things, but there's also a bigger vision of how we can help lessen the needs for those resources going forward.
Thank you. Nick, do you want to add anything, or are you going to pass?
No, I'll just add, part of the mission of the Nord Family Foundation is to build thriving and inclusive communities. And you can't have a thriving and inclusive communities without the arts, without being fed, and frankly, without having a job.
So when I said earlier in my remarks how we stitch together the community that we serve, I think you just heard it in their answer to that question. Does anyone have anything else you'd like to add before we move on to the next one? Because it's going to get more vibrant as we go on. So beyond the programs and services your organization provides in the community, what other more qualitative contributions does your organization make that might be broader than the people that you serve directly? Anybody want to take a stab at that? So what does your organization offer the community that's beyond feeding people, that's beyond putting on a performance at North Pointe Ballet?
That's a hard one, but I will say that I think one of the things that ONE Lorain County, our role has really over the last couple years has come up is as a convener and a coordinator of collaboration. Each community, most communities have their own individual economic or community development people. The county has economic development people. The different educational facilities are working on economic and community development. And how can we bring all those organizations together and make sure that we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, and that we eliminate duplicative services as best as we can. And so we're able to bring, I think, the right decision makers when we look at economic development. We get together on right now we're getting together on a weekly basis because we have Manufacturing Month starts October 1st. But on a regular basis to just have that brain trust working on problems that are facing Lorain County. So I think, that serves to get that discussion going.
I think it's a phrase that I've used more times than any other over the last year, but philanthropy is not going to spend our way out of these problems. The resources are so scarce that there's no way that philanthropy in general, whether it's the Nord Family Foundation or any other foundation throughout the country, is going to be able to fill the gaps. And so we're always looking for opportunities outside of a grant. And so, Lisa, you mentioned convening. The foundation is very intentional in bringing people together to have conversations, to collaborate. The work that we're doing, Julie, in partnership with Second Harvest and many of our nonprofits here, building a shared policy agenda. How can we collaborate together to influence the decisions that impact us all?
I will add, I'll second your, comment that there's collaboration happening. We partner with several different organizations in Lorain County, and I think qualitatively, it makes me think like quality of life, quality of culture in the community, bringing together people from different organizations and broadening what's available culturally also speaks to the reputation of the community too. Like, we have room for dance, we have room for theater, we have room for play, kind of thing. Those things happen at Lorain Palace. There's smaller groups that are doing these kinds of things, and maybe not having 1,000 people at the palace, but maybe some smaller show or performance. And I just think about like Cleveland and how we are able to say that they have one of the biggest theater districts in the country. Well, here in Lorain, we have a thriving arts community too. We were just at Firefish last Friday. Hopefully many of you got to go. And it was so fun to just walk through the crowd. We were waiting to perform and seeing people out and mingling, and we were a part of that. And so qualitatively, it's improving the lives of people in Lorain. They have somewhere to go on Friday night with their neighbor and meet another neighbor from 2 streets over and go see, the fish get burned and, the stilt walkers and whoever's performing and the high school band. And so qualitatively, I think that improves the cultural life in Lorain. So yeah.
So I agree with all of that. I want to talk about 2 different things. One is just as an employer, as a nonprofit employer, that for our organization, we put a lot of focus several years ago on making sure that everybody, we have 41 staff, that everyone within our organization was making a living wage. that we look at healthcare, that we look at, how we are supporting, our team and making sure that, they and their families are stable. So that was a big focus of ours because we want to be an example. We don't want to be out in the community saying, these are things that need to happen in economic development and these are things that need to happen without making sure that, our house was in order first. So that's one level. But the other level, I think we have 3,000 volunteers. And one of the things that we want to create, through our programming is, not about food. It's about community. Because food is, part of what brings people together, but it's also, the kind of volunteers who are at a mobile pantry, who are talking to someone in their car. It's when, our SNAP coordinators, sit down. I mean, just this week, there was a mom and her daughter sitting in one of our conference rooms, working with one of our SNAP coordinators to get signed up for SNAP. It's that people feel like someone cares. And those are the things that you can't put a number on. That caring, that when someone calls on the phone to Second Harvest, that one of our team answers the phone and says, hold on, I can get you the name of a place. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. We'll find somewhere to get you help. And that's part of the nonprofit magic, is how much we care about each other. And how much, we know that if I need something and I need to, call over to Lorain County Public Health, that, I can call Kat and she's going to make sure that it happens, because those are the relationships we have with each other.
I like that, the nonprofit magic that we do, because I think for those of you that may not be an employee of a nonprofit, I think you need to realize how much we really do talk among ourselves. I know that was mentioned earlier, how much the foundations collaborate with one another and speak with one another, which is really true. But we all in the nonprofit sector try our best to collaborate with one another. We know what services each other provides and tries to provide, and we can give somebody that name, not just give them a phone number, but say, if you call Kat or if you call Julie, she'll definitely help you. And then we can quickly call them and make sure that happens. So again, we're stitching together people in a community to provide them not only with basic services, but also quality of life issues. We try here at the Historical Society to collaborate with many of the folks sitting in this room and many of the other nonprofits, because that's just what we do. We want to let people in the community know what's available to them. So I hope that you're starting to see a theme in the answers to many of the questions that are being raised. Anyone have any, Elizabeth?
I was just going to reiterate that today is an example of that qualitative, concept that you're getting at. So.
Thank you. To try to get people to start a conversation and to realize that our nonprofits not only economically make a huge contribution to the community, but I bet you that, and I was not able to go to Firefish, but I bet if you went, many of the people who were there were people who work in the nonprofits, because whether you realize that or not, we're the ones that really know, for the most part, what's going on in the community. And so not that community members don't support, they do, but the people who are on our boards, who work for us, who are our volunteers, are the ones that are out there at all of these, many of these events. Are you ready for the next one? Do you envision the role of nonprofit organizations in the community shifting as governmental entities and agencies are scaled down? If so, how?
I think for sure, as things are scaled down in the government, people need somewhere to turn. And it's going to naturally be the nonprofit organizations. It's going to naturally be the people that are at the Firefish Festival or the local festival that know what's happening in the community, that keep the conversations going, that keep calling each other and putting things together, because the nonprofits are very much in tune to the needs of the community. When they create themselves, we heard there, 1,300 nonprofit organizations. We're asking ourselves, who asked for this? What is it that they really need? Are we staying in our lane and doing what we're good at and then collaborating with someone else who's in their lane and what they're good at, and then we converge where it makes sense? So I do think that people are definitely turning to the nonprofits, but I think that there's so many things, as has already been said today, so many nonprofits that people aren't aware of and services that they're not aware of. And I think that's a big barrier for us as nonprofits. How do we get people in the community who could benefit from our services and want them but don't know that they exist?
No, I think one of Elizabeth's points about collaboration and staying in your lane in a good way is really, just spot on, because, we're not going to get into legal aid. We're not going to do ballet. We're not going to do any of these services. But we need those partners to be there. And so to be able to be really strong in the work that we do and allow the other nonprofit to be strong in what they do and collaborate together and support each other, I think that's one way we're going to get through this. I don't think it's a secret. Our funding for federal food and state food has decreased. And so I think it's also about innovation. How are we looking at things differently, not just saying, okay, we're just going to keep trying to do it the same way we've been doing it. No, it's like to be open to ideas and other ways to get food. We're working very closely with the Veteran Services Commission right now with a unique program on how to bring food to veterans, but it's completely different than how we've done things before. And it's being open to that. And not everything's going to work. So I think we just have to, keep trying new things and be willing to fail, because there really isn't any other option. When the funding's going away, it's going away. So it's either you find another solution or you're not here anymore.
Yeah, so KeyBank did a study recently, and it said that the majority of small businesses would consider themselves in survival mode. Now, in my role, I work mostly with larger businesses, but previously I ran the Small Business Development Center at LCCC, and small business is the backbone of our economy. And so I think there are some resources to support those small businesses. And again, how do we get those resources and get those business owners the skill level to run successful businesses and make good decisions? And so that's collaboration with many organizations, whether that's the SBDC, my organization, SCORE advisors, all those resources, and connect them and help support those business owners. And the other part is to continue to advocate. So when we hear that funding's being taken away for certain programs, how do we advocate and speak and have our voices heard? And sometimes it's a little overwhelming when you listen to news stories or hear things. But I think coming together and having our voices raised in unison on issues and policies that are important is another role that I think nonprofits, maybe who historically have not been in that advocacy role, need to consider how can we be better advocates on a bigger level.
I think that's exactly right. I think 10 years ago, certain nonprofits and advocacy is built into the DNA of the organization. The Lorain County Urban League, for instance, advocacy has always been core to the mission. Second Harvest, I'm not sure when you started doing advocacy, but it's been a long time that you've been in this space. 10 years ago, Barb, I'm not sure that you would have said that Lorain Historical Society has a role in advocacy or community building or community organizing or any of these things. And so I think now our nonprofit organizations, especially in this time, advocacy has moved up the list of tools in our toolkit. And I think advocating collectively together, it's something that a lot of our partners, Julie and I, have had many conversations. There's going to be a time where they pit nonprofits against each other. Explain to me why food is more important than housing. Explain to me why arts is more important than economic development. And somebody's going to lose. And so I think one of the biggest benefits, largest advantages that nonprofits have is the ability to work together. So when we're at the State House advocating on behalf of the library, for instance, the library administers the summer meals program. And so we should be advocating on behalf of the library and the arts and food and all of these other things.
Thank you. I think it's really expanded the role of the nonprofits, but I think that it's something that we understand that we have to take on. And we have to work together on it, as everyone has said, because not that we speak for one another, but we need to be sensitive to the needs of all of the different nonprofits that we work with so that we can speak on their behalf. I also want to make a comment about small businesses, having been a small business owner myself. Where do people go when they want sponsorships? Where do people go when they're trying to get a sponsor for the Little League? They go to the business down the street who themselves are struggling. And we do this all the time. And I think we try to do it with grace and try to do it understanding that everyone's resources are pretty tapped. But it really is the small business owners that support our nonprofits in one way or another. And so I know that they're very busy. I know that they don't have a lot of time for coming to events like this. But if you know a small business owner in our community, and I will say that here in Lorain, many of them have been very, very generous, at least to the level at which they could be. So I think we can't ignore that, and we can't ignore the role that they play, and we need to support them in whatever way we can, whether that's ordering lunch from Lorenzo's or whether that's, getting donuts from Fligner's or Marta's or whoever, so that they know that we're not just there with our hand out, but we're there in a way to support them. And I think that's something that I can only speak for people in Lorain. Sometimes we don't realize that. We say, oh, they're charging so much money and they're doing this and they're doing that. They need to make a living wage too. I mean, most of the people I know who own small businesses are not independently wealthy. Their house is on the line for the business that they are running, and they need to make that mortgage payment too, or there's not going to be a business. So I think, yes, we're very sensitive to our nonprofits because we do good work, but we do it with the help and support of local businesses who do support us, in Lorain County especially. I'm going to skip to the last question because I want to make sure we have time for conversation with our audience. Most of the nonprofits represented here, as we said earlier, have been around for at least 10 years or so, obviously with the exception of Lisa, but Lisa's been involved in the nonprofit world for many years. We've experienced the highs and the lows, the effects of 9/11, the effects of Katrina, the economic downturn of 2008 and 2009, COVID, and now. As a leader in your organization, what gives you hope and keeps you doing the work you do day in and day out in spite of what's going on around you? Lisa, you got the mic.
Does someone want it? No. Okay.
Well, no, I'll just go first and very quickly. Yesterday, the foundation sponsored a webinar with our nonprofit partners throughout the country. And what brings me hope is the speakers highlighted some of the challenges they're experiencing, but they also highlighted some of the wins, some of the successes that we're having. And whether it's just it's a small win, Julie, the veterans program, expanding ballet at El Centro, whatever those small wins are, we are making considerable impact still. And so that's what brings me hope.
I have to say, I think what brings me hope is that although businesses are struggling, they are still willing to invest and make investments. A lot of the companies I work with are really being impacted by tariffs and the uncertainty of tariffs and the economy right now, but they're still willing to invest, expand, hire. I think most of those businesses want to make better investments in their employees and make sure that their employees are getting upskilled and have that livable wage. And so that gives me hope that those businesses want to stay and invest, and that there are new programs coming out at the state level to help support our businesses. So there are good things happening, and sometimes I just think as nonprofits, we're not always great about telling our success stories. And so I think we can all get better with that. But also, I just think the news in general loves the negative. And so the more that we can raise those positive voices, you would be surprised. I hear all the time, if you are in any of the city forums on Facebook, oh my God, those things are scary. But But people are always like, we need to collaborate. And I think you've all heard here, and you'd all say in the room, that there is so much collaboration. And again, like, I think sometimes just regular citizens that maybe aren't involved as deeply in our world don't see it. So I think, like I said, telling our positive stories out there in a more effective way could really help all of us.
So I'm going to date myself. So as a food banker working in Toledo and then working in Lorain, I've lived through all of those things that Barb mentioned. And what I can tell you, from being in Lorain County for so many years, is that when the chips are down, this community rallies. Mm-hmm. That, when we experienced the downturn in 2009, people rallied. Our foundations rallied, our community rallied, volunteers came, they helped us support the community. When COVID happened, people were there and they helped us, and volunteers were there. I mean, to the point where our volunteers were so sad they couldn't be at our building. One of our volunteers came and did chalk drawings in the parking lot for us, just to remind us that they cared. So that's the one thing that I know. So even though things are difficult right now, we're all experiencing that. What I know is that this community always rallies to support people.
Something that keeps me going, and I think I can say this for my organization as a whole, is feedback. We get feedback on our comment forms, and we get feedback from teachers in the schools that we go into, and it's always humbling and uplifting to read teachers say that they've never seen their kids more engaged when we do an interactive workshop performance and we have the kids get up and learn a dance that's in place, but they do it in our abridged version of whatever ballet we're taking to them. Or when someone leaves a comment about how they realize that dance can be very inclusive because they were in our audience and experienced all of our accessibility components and the way that we promote variety on stage and acceptance of different dancers on stage. I also really like the feedback we get from our photographer. We have someone at all of our performances, and one of my favorites especially is our park performance that we do for free twice a year in Lakeview Park. And he captures our audience enjoying what we offer to the community. When that photo of, some kids dancing while we're in the background dancing on the stage, we know that we've hit our mark. That's what we want. We want people to come and have a picnic and chat with their neighbors and their kids to get up and dance and to just experience something that's different and make space that it's possible and they can choose it, or even just try it and say, that was great, but I don't know if I need to go back to that, but maybe I'll tell my neighbor about it. And so that feedback is what keeps us going and lets us know we are wanted in the community, and what we're doing is an important piece, just as important, but in a different way, as food and jobs and what have you.
Thank you very much to all of you. And thank you for these panelists for being willing to put themselves out there in front of many of their peers who either have more experience or have other ideas. So please give them a round of applause. So I want to hear some feedback from all of you. I know that there are a number of other nonprofit leaders who are here in the audience, and I'm wondering a couple of things. Do you have anything you'd like to add? I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there a question that you heard that particularly resonated with your nonprofit or with your foundation that you would like to offer some comment to before we open it up just to general questions from the audience? Anybody? Maria? Yeah, here. Madison will bring you the microphone.
Hi, I just wanted to make this comment to everyone, and especially to Elizabeth. When I was at El Centro, I saw your program. I saw those faces light up when they were out there dancing, and it gave me a lot of pride, and I was so grateful because a lot of the kids in that neighborhood were not exposed to that before. So I just want to say thank you for that, and I think that's where you've added some value to the community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yes. Very nice.
Thank you. I'm Kat from Lorain County Public Health. And one thing that I would add is that we're really lucky in this area to have a community health assessment process where your public health department and your three major healthcare systems serving this county are all aligned on the process and schedule for collecting data. It's called the Community Health Assessment, or we might call it the CHA for short. So every 3 years here in Lorain County, those healthcare systems, also Board of Mental Health, Metro Parks, Health and Dentistry are at the table to coordinate and look at the needs in the community. We then have an updated assessment which can guide programming when it comes to what are the top health issues, whether it's risk factors or downstream outcomes that we're seeing early death and illness from. So that piece is really fortunate in Lorain County, and I just wanted to take a minute to encourage all of the nonprofits or organizations here to remember that you do have that health data to use and demonstrate why needs are the way they are. And we also will have soon a community health improvement plan that corresponds with the data and prioritizes. It kind of does the work for you. It says, here's the top needs, and then collectively in the CHIP, or the Community Health Improvement Plan, here's what we're working on in our healthcare sphere, in our public health sphere.
Thank you. And I will say that the health department has always been extremely collaborative. I know from different things that we've done when Kat first came, that we've partnered with them on, they really are a true community partner, in addition to all the other organizations that are here. So anybody else? Paris, you want to say anything?
As I heard you all, hi everyone, I'm Paris from the Urban League. I think we need to do a better job at sharing with the community the work that we're doing together. I know we all get each other's newsletters and we see each other's social media posts, but now I'm thinking in this conversation, it's continuing the cycle in our group. So what does that look like for us to be intentional with making sure it is clear that literally everybody in this room works together?
That's a really, really good point. And I'm not sure how we do that, though. So if anybody has any ideas, I think it's true because it resonates with some of the things that were said earlier, that we know that we collaborate, but the community at large has no idea. They think we all work in our own silos, no matter what we do. Yeah?
I'm happy to help you with the newsletter. Good morning. My name is Diane Crumley. I'm the new director of Lorain County Catholic Charities. And thank you. Glad to be here. I have a long history in Lorain County. I'm a Lorain born and raised, and I'm glad to be in this role and hopefully able to work with all of you if I have not. But I wanted to hit on something you touched on, and Lisa, it was about storytelling. And I see both sides of that. I think like the testimonials and the support and being able to share what each of us are doing and saying, hey, did you know they also do this, or they also can support this, is a really key piece of us growing our impact in our communities, but also being able to help one another. We're all here to support Lorain County. I want you to win as much as I hope you want me to win, because that's how we get better and impact more. But also being aware of how we allow negative storytelling to impact one another. Just because you've heard this about something with Catholic Charities, it's okay to push back as much as I would hope you would, and I will do for you. So I guess my point is, as nonprofits, we have to have each other's back. And I think that's a key piece of hearing our story in the community is how do we help each other to serve our community instead of it being just about me in my silo because I need the funding or the newsprint or whatever. I just really believe it's a both-sided to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything or share before we open it up to questions? Okay. Oh, yeah. Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie from Community Foundation, Lorain County. Another thing I heard about, the strength of the nonprofit sector, our businesses, and I just wanted to talk about, we had an amazing Connect to a Cause last week. You wouldn't see me again if I shared the numbers, so I'm not going to share the numbers. We're going to share that next week, October 7th, I think. But the thing I want to point out is there are so many community members. There are so many people. I know it's many of you who are giving as well, but there are so many people, community members, businesses, partners who are just pulling for all of us, all of our organizations. And I think that's another thing that just makes Lorain County really, really strong. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Anybody from the library, any other foundation person? I don't want to have you go unnoticed. So I think there's a lot of commonalities that we all heard today, but do any of you have any questions that you would like to ask the panelists specifically or just pose to the audience?
So I have two questions. My name is Victoria Kempton. I'm the councilwoman of this area. So even though I'm in government, foundations, nonprofits, we all work hand in hand. So I have two questions. The first one is, how are you all transitioning with AI and digital footprint to get your message out there, to work with each other? Because it's not coming, it's here. So I'm just curious about how your organizations are using that efficiently or using it at all. And then I have probably an unpopular comment, but one of the things that I hear from my business owners or the people that support all of the organizations in this room and this county is a little bit of giver's fatigue. So it's, very often it's like, oh, I got another set of tickets or I got another this, and they want to give, they want to support, but when they're hit every single week, it kind of makes them go, I can't do it. And so is that ever a conversation that maybe, this time we give give these folks a break and we hit somebody else or how is that? Because it is becoming a thing, so to speak. So for lack of a better word, they only have so much. So just a thought.
I'll start with your AI question. I'm part of writing grants and putting together like posts and verbiage and things for appeals that we do. And I use AI to help me get to the point. We have so much that we do and so many little pieces and parts. And I know that there's every single one of those pieces and parts appeals to someone who would give me money. But I need to hit all of it in 2 sentences and 7 emojis. So you know what I mean? Like I gotta, and then I gotta pair a photo with it. So, we use it a lot just to get to the point. How can I condense this and say everything I need to say? Because there are actually some grant applications where like the count is getting smaller and smaller, but I know that they're interested in all these things. So that's how we use it. And then giver's fatigue is a very real thing. I know for us, we try to keep track of who we've asked and like give them a break. And we make sure to send a thank you note to everyone who gives something for sure. And then, try to shout out things and like put it like, hey, this is what's in our basket from these local businesses and things like that. So we do try as much as we can within our capacity and resources to do that. Anybody else?
AI, I use it personally, so my team is me. So I don't have a AI policy or anything, but I have heard about different communities building AI policies. So I use it quite a bit. I hate to start with a blank sheet of paper, so it's like a starting point. But do I think that I'm using it to the extent that AI could be used? Absolutely not. But I do think my larger companies and things that I talk to, they are building AI policies, because as much good and potential there is, there are also downsides. And I think companies need to monitor that, or communities need to monitor that. But I would say if you haven't played around with AI, you really need to, or you are going to be obsolete soon. It is going to change the way companies do work going forward. And I know we hear that and people are like, oh yeah, it is coming, and individuals and companies that don't get on board and figure it out are not going to exist. So.
Councilwoman, great seeing you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for all the work that you do for the community. I agree, giving fatigue is a real thing. Compassion fatigue is a real thing as well. And Julie touched on it a little bit with her employees and making sure that they have the living wages and the benefits. But the work that we do is difficult, and often we're with very difficult populations. Catholic Charities, for an example, as well. Supporting our staff, supporting the people who are on the ground, the boots on the ground that are delivering the services on a day-to-day basis, supporting them is critical in a time like this.
We turned in a grant to Ohio Arts Council speaking to the AI piece, and they did a follow-up survey afterwards about AI specifically, and they wanted to know how we were using it. And it was an acknowledgement that it's here, and they said this is not going to affect your funding, but we need to know how people are using it. And they gave lots of choices, and it was very thorough in a short amount of time that appreciated the time that I had. But it was really encouraging to me, because I think as a grant writer, I'm hesitant to use it because I want it to be genuine and I want it to be my words, but I can't get left behind either. And my director said, well, do you think that they'll know? And I said, people have to know that we're using AI to help us get to the point or what have you. Everyone else's is going to start to come up and sound, it's going to have the benefits of using AI to shore up what they're saying and things like that. So I was really encouraged that OAC is acknowledging it and stepping into the fact that this is a thing that's here to stay.
I'd just like to make one comment about donor fatigue. I think I speak for everybody here. We know it. We feel it as well. We try to be sensitive to it. But I know what that budget number is all too well. I know that budget number that we can't get beyond because we're not able to raise enough money. And so then we have the problem of, so where do I cut? Do I cut staff? Do I not try to provide benefits to full-time staff? Do I not give a living wage? Do we not do the programs that we do? Because if we don't do the programs that we do, engaging with the community, how does the community know what our value is or benefit from it? So, and I will say this for Lorain, speaking for the city of Lorain, not that I'm speaking for the city, but to describe what happens in Lorain. You've got the elderly folks, and I'm there, who've been giving all their lives, and they've given and they've given and they've given. And then you have the young people who are raising families, who are trying to get educated themselves, who are trying to cover their own expenses. And there's no middle. Or the people in the middle, the number of those people is very small. And it's a struggle. And I think everyone here tries to do their best to be sensitive to that. But I really don't have an answer. And if somebody out there does, I'd love to hear it, because we struggle with that year over year. So do we not grow? Do we just sit at the Morehouse with one employee and a bunch of old stuff? Or do we take on this building, which is a treasure to the community and people love coming here? But we can't let this building be empty or go unrepaired either. So I know I have 5 or 6 board members here, and a former board president who was involved very early on, and it's just been a real struggle. So, yeah, Kelly.
I'm Kelsey, I'm at United Way. And really, I'm sharing something that I've heard Ryan Aroni say, who is our president and CEO. One thing to keep in mind, this is certainly not an answer, but making sure that we are celebrating our donors and volunteers as often as possible in as many ways as possible. He refers to it as being best in class, because without those folks, we don't exist. So just a reminder, not an answer, but a reminder to make sure that we're always taking care of those folks, because it is very real, the struggles that we're talking about.
Paris? I just want to add on to the point about giver fatigue. I think we made the point, but I also want us to think about what we're experiencing at the Urban League is there are a large number of Black and brown people who gave freely to the Urban League that no longer have their federal jobs. And so it's not that they don't want to give to us. The reality is they're unemployed and they're trying to figure out, how can I sustain my life at the space that I feel like I've strived to become successful, and to be able to give and to raise my children and to help my parents or my grandparents and all those things. But now I'm at a place of like, well, where am I going to work and how am I going to navigate these systems? And so if you start looking at the data, there are a lot of people, thousands, hundreds of thousands, that have lost their jobs. And so it's not about, I don't want to give. It's the reality of, I really don't have it to give. And I make a joke with Miss D all the time that works at the Urban League. Most of you all know her. She comes in office, y'all, all the time. Like, Paris, we got to buy these tickets or we're going to the same. And I always joke that the point of working at the Urban League is so I can have money to give it to other nonprofits. Because my family is like, we're going where again? How much was this? I'm like, literally, that's what the community looks like. So, okay, my question was, what conversations are you all having with your staff and volunteers about this current climate? Are you just providing hope? Is there like a true reality of like, this is what's happening? Are we looking at budgets with our team? Like, I feel myself being in a tough place of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. And Ryan is one of my good friends. And so we always talk about making sure as a leader that you're providing hope. And that you're, making sure that when they come in and when they leave, they feel supported, understood, and hope. And I'm in there like, I need some hope because I'm not sure how this is gonna turn, but I'm not sure. I don't know what that level of transparency needs to be, because I don't want them to be like, well, it's pointless of what we're doing because down the line, we're not getting this money, and I'm not gonna have a job. Right. And I have seen some people like walk away, hey, I'm going to go work for corporate, but I'll still mentor or do something with the Urban League. But that's like a fine line. So what conversations are you all having?
So we are talking about it. I mean, we talk about it with our team. We talk about it with our volunteers. We send messages out, make sure people are aware of the struggles that we're having. I don't think it's a secret. We have a negative $1 million budget this year. Our budget's about $6 million. There are food banks around the country who've cut staff. This is just a reality. I mean, even our State Food Bank Association cut, 5 or 6 staff at the beginning of July. So, it's a reality and it's a scary thing. We're fortunate that our board is very thoughtful. Our team is very thoughtful. So that we knew that when we had budget surpluses, if you will, while we were in COVID, that we held on to those dollars so that we can cover, a negative $1 million budget. So last year was about negative $500,000. This year it's $1 million. Next year I expect we'll still have a negative $1 million budget. It takes a lot to reassure the team that it's okay. You're still going to have a job. We're still here. We're still doing all the things we said we were going to do, because it's a scary place to be in, to be talking about negative budgets. And like I said, we're fortunate. I know that other nonprofits are not in that position. That as funding cuts are coming down, people are getting laid off. I mean, because federal dollars aren't there, state dollars aren't there. So it's hard. We try to reassure our volunteers. I will tell you, sometimes our volunteers are reassuring us. I mean, I had a volunteer the other day walk by and give me a hug and say, it's going to be okay. So I think there's a sense too, we're all in this together.
Well, like I said, it's just me, so I try to give myself a little pep talk in the morning. But I think it's also communicating with my board and, and telling them and being honest. And as a new organization, I haven't hired someone partly because I don't want to take someone from a full-time job with maybe a budget and an income stream that's a little questionable. And so I think it is being very honest. And, I'm not feeding people. I'm not saving dogs. Like, I don't have pretty pictures to show and heartbreak and tug on those heartstrings. And so, so it is hard to kind of continue to get those donors, and I have to ask myself, like, every day, like, is my organization sustainable? And really, what value am I adding? And again, I think it's being able to tell those stories and be like, both in data, but in the qualitative stuff too. And I always am like, oh, this is a great data piece. Like, I need to tell my board this and then tell it out in our media. But it is difficult.
Anybody else in the audience have any suggestions or any comments? Any other burning questions for the good of everybody here? I think it's been a great discussion.
I just want to mention one project that is going on that really, I think, illustrates the collaboration level. We are launching a Lorain County housing study. The RFP is live on ONE Lorain County's website, but it really was a multiple organization. Most of you know the county did a strategic plan, and out of that strategic plan, housing became pinpointed as a big issue. Nick has always been a proponent of housing, and so really he was crucial in pulling together a group of people. So right now the study is being led by ONE Lorain County and the Lorain County Department of Public Health, which, on the face of things, you don't see like that there's a huge connection, but housing is a huge piece of the social determinants of health. But it is also really important when it comes to economic development, because I can't attract a large employer if we have nowhere for their employees to work. And so we're really excited about that housing study. So if your organization or organizations and consultants that might be interested in being the consultant that does that RFP, that does the housing study, please send them the link to that RFP. But there are many organizations involved: the Urban League, Lorain County Community College, Team NEO, who am I missing? The Fund for Economic Future, Community Foundation. Raise Up. Yep. So it's really a indication of the level of collaboration that happens.
One last chance. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming today. I think perhaps we didn't answer a lot of questions. You may be leaving with more than you came, but that's what a community conversation is about. I do hope that those of you who may not have been able to attend one of these before will meet with one another, give you a chance to exchange your contact information so that we can continue to collaborate and keep moving the community forward and collaborating, being creative, and doing all the things that we do, because it is much appreciated by the community, and I do know that. So thank you all for coming today.